I hope everybody had an enjoyable stay last night. And good dinner. Thank you, Dr. Neal. It was really good. We had a pleasurable time and really enjoyed dinner. It was great. Good company. So thank you for the hospitality and thank your staff and Bowling Green. Appreciate it. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Kentucky Community and Technical College System Board of Regents meeting to order. The press was notified of the meeting on June 6th. I would like to ask Ms. Young, parliamentarian, to call the roll.
Chair Martin.
Here.
Vice Chair Hamilton.
Here.
Secretary Whitten.
Here.
Regent Cox.
Here.
Regent Finan.
Here.
Regent Girdler. Regent Green.
Here.
Regent Heerdink.
Here.
Regent Hodges.
Here.
Regent Alexandra Martin.
Here.
Regent McGraw.
Here.
Regent Wabinowitz.
Here.
Regent Stevens.
Here.
Regent Sutherland. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. And thank you all online. Thanks for joining us. Okay, for the first two items, we actually went over yesterday at the end of the day. So we'll skip on to ask our interim vice president of administrative services, Buddy Combs, to come up and talk about compensation.
Morning, everyone. On the agenda item, we're making a recommendation to the KCTCS Board of Regents to provide a cost of living adjustment of up to 3% for all of our regular full-time employees hired on or before March 31st of 2024. As everybody is aware, the cost of living has increased significantly over these past few years, affecting the purchase power of our employees. KCTCS believes it's essential to maintain the competitiveness of our compensation package to attract and retain top talent. Whereas this cost of living adjustment, we believe, is necessary to ensure our employees at least keep up with a little bit of the inflation that's going on these days. The President's leadership team has supported this recommendation, and we have built this into our FY 24-25 budgeted budget that we'll present to you here in a minute. The last recurring salary increase occurred in July fiscal year of 2024, and we have the history of all the past salary increments that this board has approved. So with that, we request that the Kentucky Community and Technical College System Board of Regents approve a 3% cost of living adjustment for each regular full-time employee hired on or before March 31st of 2024.
And how much will that cost us, Buddy?
That is in your package. If we do a 3% increase, the estimated cost with benefits is $8,852,600.
Okay. And we can afford that, right?
It's built into the next agenda item. We
Just have to ask.
We have built it into the budget, yes.
Okay.
I'll
Joe?
move to approve.
He doesn't want that to go idly by. Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Second, Brianna Whitten.
Okay, we'll take your second, Leah. She beat you to the punch, Brianna. Okay.
Chair Martin.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hamilton. Secretary Whitten.
Yes.
Regent Cox.
Yes.
Regent Finan.
Yes.
Regent Girdler. Regent Green.
Yes.
Regent Heerdink.
Yes, please.
Regent Hodges.
Yes.
Regent Alexandra Martin.
Yes.
Regent McGraw.
Yes.
Regent Wabinowitz.
Yes.
Regent Stevens.
Yes.
And Regent Sutherland is not on yet. Okay. Motion passes.
Okay. Well, congratulations, everybody.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just a comment. I don't know that there's a lot of institutions that are doing this at this level. And I think it's great news. I hope that it's posed and communicated in such a way because I think it's significant when you're spending $8 million on a cost of living. I'm not saying that it's the best we can do. I'm saying there's not a lot of organizations right now who can just take on with our size budget.
Yeah.
$8 million. So it is good news for everyone out there.
Yeah.
I hope it's communicated in a way that people do understand that it's significant.
Thank you. If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, we'll communicate this out ASAP across the system, along with other updates from the Board of Regents meeting. But, this is a signaling effect that we care and value everyone in the KCTCS family. It's also another way for us to say we care about retention, we care about recruitment towards the system. State government gave a 3% increase this year to all state employees as well. And finally, is that we planned for it, we budgeted for it. So thank you to PLT and the business officers at their respective colleges for already having this in the budget. But this leads into compression next. But thank you.
Yeah, I do think this will help across the board. So everybody is going to get something, even the ones that kind of did not get hit with the banding adjustment. So I hope, I know I definitely appreciate that from the PLT standpoint. So, okay, buddy, budget.
Thank you. So the next item is the KCTCS Board of Regents. The recommendation is the KCTCS Board of Regents adopt the 2024-25 budget. The budget books were mailed out to all of the Board of Regents about 2 weeks ago. I want to give you a little bit of background. So the budget this year will provide the 3% cost of living adjustment that was just approved for employees hired prior to March 31st and in a regular full-time position. This budget also includes funding for our fixed cost increases in utilities, property and casualty insurance, and facility operations. This budget will also fund the fixed cost increases for our faculty promotions. But I did want to make a point that in March of 2024 this year, the increments were raised for the faculty promotions by 500 for each level. And that went into effect March of 2024. So those will affect those faculties that get promoted effective July 1 of this year. This budget also maintains a non-recurring budget reserve that was directed by this Board of Regents for both all the colleges, the system-wide operations, and our fire commission. It also provides limited safeguards against potential state appropriation reductions and enrollment declines, which we haven't seen enrollment declines. We're actually on the rise there, and I'll get more into that in a little bit later. So the overall budget for KCTCS for 24-25 is $1,017,134,300. And I wanted to give you just a little bit of context behind this. Our state appropriations were up about 6.3%, and we appreciate the General Assembly and the legislation for providing these extra funds to KCTCS for this current fiscal year. As Dr. Quarles mentioned in his presidential report, KCTCS received almost $7 million in an inflationary adjustment that was provided to each of the colleges. Wanted to give you an update that the way we distributed that was based on current operating expenses for the past 3 years is how we allocated those funds to each of the colleges. In addition, we received $23 million in performance funding. I do want to make a note that we had 4 colleges, unfortunately, did not receive any of the performance funding. It's Big Sandy, Hazard, Henderson, and Southeast. We continue to work on that with the legislature, and we're going to be reviewing our performance funding model again in this upcoming year. The other item I wanted to bring to your attention is Dr. Quarles also mentioned in his presidential report, our fire and tornado insurance increased dramatically, and the legislature was kind enough to cover that additional cost for the next 2 years in the amount of $4,637,000. In addition, Dr. Quarles mentioned the legislator provided us with $1 million for the forensic audit. Just to let you know that that money is budgeted in the fiscal year 26 budget. So it's not in the current budget, but it's in the next fiscal year budget. In addition, they provided us $90 million in efficiency, operation, and innovation plan, and those funds won't be available to us until fiscal year 26 as well. We're happy to announce that we're projecting, with the board's approval, the $3 tuition increase and the projected enrollment increases that we have over the next year, that our tuition and mandatory fee revenue will be up this next fiscal year as well, to help support the mission of the colleges and the system. The other item I wanted to bring to your attention was from the finance report that I did yesterday, is that to keep in line so that we don't have these huge percentage increases, we increased our budget authority for our investment income up $9 million. In the past, we'd only budgeted about $1,500,000, but the return on our investments have increased. And to keep in line when we report to you, that we don't show you that 1,000% increase, we've adjusted our budget for that moving forward. The other item that we're projecting expenses down and other revenue sources is our capital projects. So most of our colleges are winding down the major capital project. And so our operation and maintenance budgets are kind of being reduced to reflect the addition of completing these projects moving forward. The other item is the academic support was down 27%. The major factor in that academic support was from Owensboro Community College. The legislature gave us $38 million for a healthcare innovation center, and we have pretty much spent that money down. So those expenses are reflecting in this year's budget that we don't have that $38 million anymore. The last item again is operation and maintenance. We've budgeted down 6.3% over last fiscal year. Due to the decreasing operations and maintenance, where our colleges are being more efficient in that process as well. The other item I wanted to bring to your attention, if in the budget book, is we do list all the capital projects. Again, we did receive $44 million from the state and bond state funds for the Elizabethtown renovation of the occupational and technical building phase 2. In addition, we also received bond state funds for asset preservation in the amount of $35,500,000. And then we've listed all those capital projects in the budget book, along with all of our lease summaries for all of our colleges that have lease spaces. So with that, let me get back to my first page. We request that the Kentucky Community and Technical College System Board of Regents adopt the 24-25 budget resolution, which is attachment A, which is this book, regarding the 24-25 annual budget for KCTCS.
Thank you, buddy. If you don't mind, I'll just add a couple comments. If you
Yes,
don't mind. Just keep in mind that, going forward, there was an influx of COVID dollars over the past several years for higher education, and those have been spent. And nationally, a lot of institutions are going to struggle because it was spent on items that they unfortunately put in as recurring items. And so you all have had the wisdom of not getting ourselves in that situation. Another thing is just remember that we are highly dependent upon tuition revenue, so that as we need to be nimble and have the ability to change. If we do see changes in enrollment, we're going to have a great presentation about that later today. We're also researching, as we go through the Senate Joint Resolution, researching what the appropriate reserve amount should be for the system and our colleges as well. So that's a question that's yet to be determined. We'll come back with a recommendation. And also just keep in mind that it's likely that the outcomes of the joint resolution will change our budgeting process for the better. That could include a line item for the system office. That way we live within our expenses, just like the colleges do as well. And of course, it's been said before, recommendations to change performance-based funding model as well. And then last point I have here is that We plan on being very aggressive on state and federal grants that have been unlocked by the General Assembly, and of course, working with our congressional delegation. And lastly, there's some ongoing activities that do relate to the budget, is that we are in negotiations right now to increase our reimbursement for adult education across Kentucky. We're starting a materials donation program as well to encourage businesses to donate materials that have become costly across the system. So be thinking about welding or healthcare areas as well. We've had some success with negotiating large discounts with bulk buys, and that's something that we'll continue to do. And also, one thing that we have started is doing a complete contract review with all of our vendors. All the current contracts we have right now, we're looking for areas of duplication, looking for areas, everything from our communications team to the contractors we use to mow the grass. And so we're starting a complete contract review of the entire system as well.
The other thing I'd be remiss not to say is that this budget is a huge effort between the college presidents, the chief business officers and financials at the colleges, and the system office staff. So, appreciate all the work. I'm the messenger providing this information, but the ton of work has been done at the local colleges and the staff at the system office. So I really appreciate all their help and support in this effort.
So Buddy, where do you think we'll end up for the final number for 2024? I know right now it's at 799. Where do you think we'll end up?
Oh, on the budget?
Yeah.
For the current year?
For current year.
For current fiscal
Right.
year, where we're up in revenue and we're down in expenses. So we're going to have some fund balance left over at the end of this fiscal year. So we're on track to, break even or actually have some money left over for future projects for the current year.
Well, I do want to identify that, our actual has been well under our budget numbers. So thanks to everybody sitting in here for those efforts. So that does give us some hope and some leeway for the future, the comp and class issues as well.
Yes.
Hopefully. So,
Good.
thanks. Any other questions? Yeah, Leah?
I'm curious, so if there is a surplus of the budget from this fiscal year, what does happen to those funds?
So they become what we call the fund balance that's rolled forward into the next fiscal year. Those end up become what we call non-recurring funds. Any of those dollars that are left over from this budget that rolls over into the next year, that's one-time money. So once that money's spent, it's gone. Most of the colleges use that for capital projects, renovations, and items like that. We rarely attempt to use any of those carry forward funds for reoccurring expenses like salaries.
Yes, Karen, sorry.
Buddy, just a clarifying question. On the capital construction and equipment project authorization that's listed in the book, those were all prior authorization, correct? Through this board. I just see some things on there like the acquisition of the system office building. All of these went through an approval process that flowed through the Board of Regents. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, ma'am, you are correct.
Okay.
Those were actually, the board has approved those over a couple of board meetings.
Okay.
Most recently, when the board approved our biennial budget for our capital projects moving forward.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
What are you most worried about with this upcoming budget?
For this upcoming budget, I don't have any fears of this upcoming budget. I do believe that, our enrollment projections are pretty stable and we're going to have an increase in our student population. If I have any worries, it's the following fiscal year. But I think we're pretty much covered for this year. And I think we're solid moving forward. Colleges are doing a lot of efficiencies and providing those reduction in expenses and working to increase their tuition revenue.
It is. Yeah, but you're in healthcare. Okay. Thank you, Bud. Do we have a motion? We have the budget in front of us. Russ made a motion. Do we have a second? Alexandra, she seconds it. Okay, Parliamentarian Young?
Chair Martin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hamilton,
Yes.
Secretary Witten,
Yes.
Regent Cox,
Yes.
Regent Finan,
Yes.
Regent Girdler, Regent Green,
Yes.
Regent Heerdink,
Yes.
Regent Hodges,
Yes.
Regent Alexandra Martin,
Yes.
Regent McGraw,
Yes.
Regent Rabinowitz,
Yes.
Regent Stevens.
Yeah.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank you
all.
for your support.
Thanks,
Thank you.
buddy. Next agenda item is the ratification of KCTCS colleges candidates for credentials. Acting Vice President Wagner.
Good morning. So for learner success, we have 3 action items and 4 updates and 2 surveys to share with you. The first action item is that I recommend that the Board of Regents approve the awarding of KCTCS colleges candidates for degrees and diplomas and ratify certificates as presented in your supplemental booklet for the period of January 6th through April 5th, 2024, with the credentials being awarded upon certification that the respective requirements have been satisfactorily completed. You do have the full materials, and then we do have several copies here if you would like to see them. Chair Martin?
Okay, thank you. Okay, any discussion?
These credentials do represent educational attainment to prepare our students to enter the workforce or to transfer to pursue a bachelor's degree. For this cycle that we're talking 14,805 credentials, which as Dr. Quarles mentioned yesterday is up from last year.
Just to add one comment, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, that shows how many individuals that have improved their situation in life through our delivery system across the state. And that's amazing.
Yes.
And when I get the chance to say it, we are the largest higher education entity in Kentucky. Don't forget that. And so congratulations and thank you, Dr. Wagner, for your work on this.
Chair Martin, this is Regent Witten. I'd like to make the motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Second by Chris Girdler. Parliamentarian Young?
Chair Martin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hamilton, Secretary Witten,
Yes.
Regent Cox,
Yes.
Regent Finan,
Yes.
Regent Girdler, Regent Green,
Yes.
Regent Heerdink,
Yes.
Regent Hodges,
Yes.
Regent Alexandra Martin,
Yes.
Regent McGraw,
Yes.
Regent Rabinowitz,
Yes.
Regent Stevens.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, everybody.
At this time, I ask Leah Hodges to please come forward and stand with me.
Right.
I recommend the Board of Regents approve the awarding of an Associate in Arts degree to Leah Hodges with the credential to be awarded with high distinction as presented in your supplemental booklet upon certification that the respective requirements have been satisfactorily completed. Leah will be receiving this degree from Jefferson Community and Technical College, and she is transferring to Bellarmine University with plans to pursue 2 bachelors of arts, one in communications and one in design arts and technology.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
second by Brianna. Parliamentarian Young? Yes, by all means.
Vice Chair Hamilton, Secretary Witten,
Yes, congratulations, Leah.
Regent Cox,
Yes, what she said.
Regent Finan,
Congrats, yes.
Regent Girdler, Regent Green,
Yes.
Regent Heerdink,
Yes.
Regent Hodges, well, Regent Alexandra Martin,
Absolutely, yes.
Regent McGraw,
Yes.
Regent Rabinowitz,
Yes.
Regent Stevens.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
All right, congratulations.
So Leah, it has been a pleasure to get to know you, and I want to thank you for your service. Also for assisting us with leading a panel for the next crop of students in the Student Leadership Academy, and for participating in the statewide conference. Leah also is going to have 2 double minors as well in psychology and sociology. So we're super proud of you, and we want to celebrate this moment. So Regent Green, if you will come forward.
Well, it is an absolute honor and a privilege to stand here with Leah. I've gotten to know her since she's been on the board this year, and it's been so great serving with you and sharing in your advocacy and your passion for students and faculty and staff. We are so grateful for your contributions. When I first met Leah, she was very dynamic and enthusiastic about serving on the board, and I knew she would make a tremendous impact. And Leah, you have done just that. So thank you for allowing us to be a part of your KCTCS journey. We are grateful, and we know that you'll do great things in the future. I know as part of your position statement for candidacy, when you were elected in this position, you wanted to make a difference in your community. You wanted to give voice to others, and you wanted to help bridge the gap for those of all walks of life. And I think you've done just that tenfold. And that's what we're about at KCTCS. And so we thank you, Leah, for your service, and congratulations.
All right. Somebody's gonna have to help you out with all these gifts.
And I was also going to say, with permission from the chair and the president, may I say a few words?
Oh, definitely.
I am trying not to cry. I'm a very emotional person, and especially I'm like, I have to get through the rest of this board meeting, so not going to cry right now. But I truly just want to say thank you to every single person in this room. Alexandra Martin has been an amazing co-regent with me. She reminded me yesterday that at this time last year, I did not know where I was going in life. I was not in the best place. I went through a large transition in my life that I was not prepared for. And I want to say that KCTCS gave me purpose, gave me meaning once again for my life. As many of you know, I moved to Kentucky from Cleveland, Ohio, with 3 goals in mind. It was to finish my education, to pursue a job opportunity, and to pursue love. 2 of the 3 worked, but that's the point in life that I really wanted to learn, that even though things do not go as planned, you have to keep going no matter what. And I am so thankful that being in this regent position, I have been able to make a difference in this state. And I really want to make Kentucky my home. However, wherever I end up, I know that I will continue to do the same things that I have done here. And this is not the last time you will see me at any KCTCS event, or this is the last time you'll see my name in the media, because I intend to continue to advocate for those who do not have a voice and to continue to make a difference for people who come from places like I do. So I just want to thank you all once again. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for all you do for the state of Kentucky. And I just cannot wait to continue being a cheerleader from the sidelines. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, she shared with me last night that she has another goal, and that is to build a house in the Kentucky countryside at some point. So hopefully she stays here and goes and achieves an advanced degree. So I'm really proud of you. Very proud of you.
Okay.
Now I will ask Alexandra Martin to come up, please. I recommend that the Board of Regents approve the awarding of an Associate's in Science degree and a Certificate in Business Transfer to Alexandra Martin with the credential to be awarded upon certification that the respective requirements have been satisfactorily completed.
Okay.
Alexandra will receive this degree with high distinction from Maysville Community and Technical College.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I make a humble motion.
Second.
Second. Okay. Parliamentarian Young?
Chair Martin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hamilton, Secretary Witten,
Congratulations, Alexandra. Yes, absolutely.
Regent Cox,
Absolutely.
Regent Finan,
Congrats, yes.
Regent Girdler, Regent Green,
Yes.
Regent Heerdink,
Yes.
Regent Hodges,
Yes.
Regent Alexandra Martin,
Yes.
Regent McGraw,
Yes.
Regent Rabinowitz,
Yes.
Regent Stevens. Motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations.
Yes. Alexandria will be transferring to the University of Kentucky to pursue a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. And at this time, Regent Stevens is going to have a few remarks.
I must confess, Brianna told me when this young lady was selected, she said, Jimmy Lee, you're going to like her. And absolutely right. My first conversation with her was, I don't know what we were talking about, Kentucky in general. And she's a sponge. She listened to everything, Chris, I said, act like she enjoyed it. And our conversations, this and that. In her resume to be on the board, she said, I want to make a difference. I am an advocate for students, but I want to make a difference. And she certainly has. She is a very knowledgeable, love to listen to her talk. But as I said before, she's just like a sponge. When she's in a room, she's listening to people. She wants to know all about how you feel, what your perception is. What about Kentucky and the people around her? And I'm so blessed to have known her and to call her my friend. And she's a great lady. Thank you.
Speech?
Well, there's not too much to say. I believe Leah covered very well everything, but I do want to take the time to thank you all for everything, for what you teach me. Everything I learn on here, I will make my best to help others. So thank you very much. But before I even go, I want to thank someone very special for me, Brianna. Thank you so much. Thank you very much to all. I'm going to cry here, so I better stop. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations again, Alexandra. It's been a pleasure getting to know you this year, and we really appreciate you for your service also on the Board of Regents. You also led the panel for our new Student Leadership Academy, and of course, for sharing your story at the KCTCS UK transfer signing ceremony. So we're very proud of you both.
And I
if
too,
we ever need a reminder of why we are here, this is two primary reminders of why we are here. We're here for the students, to help them with their lives, help them join us and become productive citizens and get in the workforce and help out. And this is just the apex of it by all means. So it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of it, to see two individuals come through the ranks. And so we're really proud of you. Yeah, so.
We are. That was the most exciting part, and now we move on to the updates.
Right.
Dr. Crows, did you want to?
I was just going to say,
I'm sorry.
she's always full of energy. She comes with a worldly experience. So we wish you and your family the best of luck. And you have the best Kentucky accent of anyone here. So we look forward to your success in life as well. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, so next we move to certificate and program approval. We do have one new associate in applied science degree. It is professional studio artist, bluegrass and traditional music for Owensboro Community and Technical College. This has been approved by CPE and SKYCTC. Dr. Scott Williams and his team identified employers in the region who were interested in hiring degree graduates. And they're really going to be very good for tourism, as the Owensboro is trying to create a home of bluegrass music for the city. We also have 11 new certificates, the info you have in your report. Are there any questions on our certificate and program approval? Next, my report is on the KCTCS Online Learning Assessment Plan. The plan was implemented last spring of 2023 as a system approach to online course quality. And the plan has three components, the first of which is faculty development on the KCTCS Essential Standards, which we call KEYS, faculty review of online courses using the KEYS, and then validation of course reviews completed by the colleges using the KEYS. And so by the end of May, each college was to have all full-time faculty teaching at least one online course to complete KEYS training. And I am happy to report that we do have 100% completion on that. Next year, the focus will be on adjunct faculty and any new hired faculty. On the second portion of the plan, the KEYS KCTCS Essential Standards Self-Review, all faculty who were teaching at least one online course were to complete a self-review of their course, and that will occur on a 3-year cycle. And also 100% of the colleges have met this requirement. The third component of the plan, which is the KEYS system-wide assessment, has a validation of course reviews. And so the online peer team assessed online courses by selecting a sample of 103 of our online courses to evaluate. And they learned that overall there is agreement between the colleges and what the online peer team, but that 2 colleges were recommended to schedule a KEYS norming workshop for the quality assurance team. So that is the report on the KEYS. We also want to keep you updated on artificial intelligence. You're starting to hear a lot about that. So we have developed as KCTCS a guidance document. This is not policy. This is just a guidance document to help with the use of AI detection technology, and then to share out what is appropriate AI use for both faculty and staff. This has been mapped to ensure the guidance document addresses any gaps in policies and procedures, and that any updates have been made as necessary. This has been, the goal is to have this publicized by the start of our fall semester. We have several work groups. I'm just going to highlight two of those. One is on student affairs. They've identified several areas of interest: recruitment, marketing, degree planning, advising, admissions, financial aid, disability, accessibility, student experiences, and prediction. And what the focus of this is, how will this impact student success? How will AI impact student success? How will it help KCTCS achieve our strategic goals? How might the adoption of AI augment, displace, or fill needed student services roles? And finally, they're exploring how AI can be used to help offset non-academic barriers like student disengagement and how students navigate through college.
We have a question.
Yes.
Brianna?
Good morning, Dr. Wagner, and
Good
thanks
morning.
for what I've heard of your report so far. I have a question about, so we were talking about the course reviews, which was the third bullet that you mentioned. I know at some point we had discussed, perhaps Dr. Leah Simpson had initially brought it to the board, but it was a cycle of review now for those courses, because, you know, we can't review them all every single, right? It would be just impossible to do that. So they had mentioned a cycle, or mentioned thinking about a rotation based on discipline. Is that still in the works? Do we know an implementation date for that? Or is that even something we're still pursuing?
Yes, the colleges are on a 3-year cycle. We can share that information if we need to, but yes, it is something that is in course of being developed, but it is on a 3-year rotation cycle.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Another work group that we have is on academic affairs. They are focused on providing more concise syllabus statements and best practices. And so they are in the process of creating draft documents related to the use of AI for student feedback, the use of AI checkers, and the modeling the use of AI. We are also excited about piloting an AI course this fall, CIT 102, Introduction to AI in the Workplace. It's going to be a 3-credit-hour course. Gateway and Big Sandy are going to pilot that course. What we're trying to do is explore how employers are using AI in their professions and finding ways to prep faculty to have students use AI in the same way as they would in the workplace. And in the pilot course, they're going to just, of course, explore AI in a general sense, and then the students would move into specific and targeted use of AI in the professions that mirror their chosen major. So it's currently in pilot form. Any questions on that one? If not, I am going to share information on a mental health survey. So KCTCS is in a partnership with the JED Foundation, Healthy Minds, and CPE. The CPE Student Success Collaborative is looking for a statewide mental health strategy. So we are in partnership, and part of that is to administer a Healthy Minds study. This was administered between February 26th and March 21st of this year, and we received 2,500 responses. You all have the full report. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things from there. The first one of which is financial stress. So we have 50% of our students are more financially stressed, and they indicated they are often or always stressful. On the loneliness scale, 20 to 30% of our students indicate some aspect of loneliness often, whether that's lacking companionship, feeling left out, or feeling isolated from others. Housing instability. The question was, within the past 12 months, I was worried about not having stable housing. 23% of our students said that's sometimes or often true. In terms of food instability, we had 45% of our students that say sometimes true or often true. And one of the things we're most proud of at our colleges is that we do have food pantries. So we try to take this information and use it to help at our colleges. In terms of academic impairment versus flourishing, we have 23% of our students are not flourishing on a positive mental health scale, which impacts their academic performance. So if you take a look at Kentucky, 80% of our Kentucky students experienced some level of academic impairment, And that's either due to mental or emotional difficulties in the 4 weeks prior to being surveyed. So that ranges from either 1 day to 6 or more days. 14% of Kentucky students reached out to some sort of academic personnel about mental health problems affecting their academic performance. And 34% of Kentucky students reported there's no one at their school that they would talk to if they were experiencing a mental health problem affecting their. So that's something we definitely want to work on. So what are we going to do with this survey? Well, there are several ways in which we can utilize this data. One is to identify what our needs and priorities are. We want to benchmark against peer institutions, evaluate our programs and policies, plan for services and programs, and advocate for resources. So we can utilize this, and there's a meeting later today where we may be able to use this survey to help us with a grant application that has just recently come out from the U.S. Department of Education to help with student basic needs. So that's one way we can use the survey. KCTCS has also established a mental health task force, and we'll be working with JED Foundation partners on a strategic framework to guide our colleges in offering and evaluating local mental health services. So are there any questions about this mental health study or our partnership?
Yes.
Just a comment, just look at the numbers if you don't mind. 45% facing food insecurity of some sort, the added stress. We know that there's a mental health crisis in America, and I think that there's sometimes still an unfortunate stigma attached to people seeking help from this. COVID just peeled off the layer of the onion. We always knew there's an undercurrent. Now we have some data to act on it. Data does not answer questions. It provides the questions that we need to ask. And so if we want to have student success, that means we need to have more emphasis on wraparound services, which means an investment and the services that we provide towards, sometimes the vulnerable populations that we know that we provide for. My previous job, I started a mental health program for rural Kentucky called Raising Hope. And we pulled down $2 million in federal grants and about a $500,000 recurring fund from the General Assembly. And so I'm going to talk with them, see if there could be some overlap here, because there's a program already up that has some structure across the entire state. It probably needs a lot of mending if this might be a partner we might want to work with, but it's a good starting point. But I'm really going to lean on our student affairs folks and PLT to try to provide a more substantive plan across the system, because I think that if we want more people graduating, we have to reduce the barriers and the speed bumps they may be hitting along the way. And the last thing I'll mention is that we're going to get a great update from our foundation next, but our 16 local foundations are raising money right now for emergency funds for students. Something as a car breaking down, they miss a payment on rent, some things like that prevent them from graduating. And then I'm going to personally lead a fundraising effort to help have more stable funds for our food pantries across the system, as well as using my connections in the anti-hunger community. So it's important for us to be very proactive on this, realize that a crisis does exist, and one that people oftentimes are ashamed to talk about, unfortunately. So we just need to reduce that, remove the stigma, address it, and focus on student success.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes. That's great.
This is a good place for you to be right now in my life. It's gonna help. I think this is wonderful, and I don't think we can do enough.
Yeah, comfort zones.
And if you don't mind, we haven't heard much from PLT, but some of the colleges have some great programs that are up and off the ground that are affecting this. And so if you don't mind, if we have a moment, if anyone wants to share the progress they've made on mental health at the college level. No, I'm just opening the floor up just because I know that some of you all been very, very proactive on this issue.
We just wanted to make sure that you were awake. Oh, there we go.
I'll come up since no one's jumping up. But yes, we've been pretty active at Hazard in trying to address students' mental health needs. We have therapy assistance online, and most of the colleges have that available. It's contracted through KCTCS, and we all enjoy having that. And our students can access that online, and we refer them to those resources. We also contract with other third-party providers in our area, so students can access that mental health if they need that. And we do make referrals. We have success coaches on our campuses, and they commonly refer students to those needed resources. We also have, and I think all 16 colleges have, behavioral intervention teams. So if a faculty or a staff person notices a student who's having any kind of issue, it could be a food insecurity issue, it could be just that they seem a little more stressed in class, or maybe they're nodding off in class and they're a little bit tired, they can make that referral to the BIT team. And we have key individuals on that BIT team, people who have experience in mental health, and maybe we have some folks there who are experienced in crisis and in our human services area. They get together, they get together very quickly as soon as that referral comes to them, and they discuss that student's issues and they discuss what can be done. And then we have a confidential discussion with that student through our student services area, and we get them the help they need. But it's all about intervening early. We also all have Starfish too, where we can flag students, and that is very confidential as well. And that comes through a variety of people look through that, and that comes through on their student account and PeopleSoft, and we can look through that and we can see that there might be some sort of issue. So there's a variety of ways that we can intervene early, because that's what it's all about. We want to intervene early and prevent them from having issues in their classes and prevent them from dropping out. We want them to succeed.
Before Octavia Lawrence defected to the systems office, she was my VP of Student Affairs, and for many presidents, we really rely very heavily on our Dean of Students, VP of Student Affairs, to really keep us in the know. We do partnerships, likewise, many things that my colleague Jennifer mentioned, partnering with Four Rivers, et cetera. The thing I would add, though, is then the connection, though, between mental health, as we know, and many of the other non-mental needs, if you will, non-academic needs in particular. So I think this kind of holistic, comprehensive assessment, recognizing that there is a correlation certainly between the mental, the academic, really, I think guides us in terms of how we provide and really keep in tune with students internally. But I would also mention externally, we've done a lot of efforts with our nonprofits who could provide additional support, scaffolding around meeting student needs. So it's a community. It really does take a village internally and externally, and just really pleased with the work that collectively we do times 16 in being attuned to our students. Last and certainly not least, you mentioned something in the survey that I think is also important. I continue to be surprised in some ways of the combination of students who are either homeless and or who really do withdraw from school in ways in which we probably could intervene earlier. So it speaks to really, I think, on the front end, continuously assessing the needs of our students before dealing at the campus.
Looking forward, I wanted to let you know that this last year, all 16 presidents agreed that we would all collaborate if we could find a federal grant or a large grant that would support hiring of licensed professional counselors or social workers to be on our campuses. So we are actively working with Mark Hunley and the System Office Grants team to see if we can find grants of that sort. We're finding some that would be more supportive at the college level, not necessarily as a statewide level, but that's the ultimate goal, is that we find these external resources that'll help bring this kind of service to our camps. I want to say Dr. Lisa Hunt here at our college is leading a charge right now for research, talking with companies that provide on-demand live video interaction with licensed professional counselors for students who need those services. And so we're researching the costs of that. It looks very promising, very affordable in my opinion, where we can have 24/7 service to licensed professional counselors, social workers, psychologists. If we contract with companies, and there's multiple companies out there, again, we're just gathering the research and costs right now. That might be an option for us. They also provide crisis hotlines 24/7. So there's a variety of ways that we can bring resources to our colleges for the students, and we're working hard on that.
You know, an idea that some of the counties are using is called a hub. And I know Hazard and some of the counties over in Eastern Kentucky are developing hubs for SUD and behavioral health issues. And that would be nice for the colleges to have hubs developing on the campuses. So, yes.
I would assume that there's a larger disproportion of instances in the community college school system versus a four-year institution. Again, that's just an assumption. Is the state aware of the differences, and do they kind of try to help provide more funds for the community technical college system versus the four-year college?
I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you.
It just hit me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know.
Well, they probably do because they have housing at the four-year colleges where we don't have housing. But we are more local, and we're more there in tune with everybody's communities. So it's probably overlooked.
I do know this, is that we're trying to get a better handle of how many people are affected across the system. Again, we found that in this Raising Hope initiative that we started, is that nobody has good data. And so we're still in the data collection phase. But I think that you've seen some great leadership from PLT that it doesn't matter who you are. If you need help, we're a clear message, we're here to help. We'll find services for you.
Yeah, Dr. Neal.
If I could, just if we go back a few years, not a tremendous number of years, probably 4 years or so, the legislature had been hearing from us for many years that the non-academic barriers are sometimes more significant with community college students versus university students. And because we were carrying that message forward, they said, we need some formal data, we need some formal research. And so I'm sure that we could probably pull that report back up, but they asked the LRC to do a study. And a formal report was published that did show that our students typically at higher degrees do face things like housing, emotional and mental stress, food insecurities, those sorts of things. So the data is there. It's just a few years old, but they are aware of it. I think it might be some opportunities for us to make some very strategic asks to the legislature to help these. And I think the legislature is looking for something like that.
Thank you.
And it has elevated so that CPE is part of our partnership with this. So it is a huge statewide commitment to taking a look at the mental health initiative. And so that is what CPE is working on through their Student Success Collaborative along with KCTCS. So there's a timeline for this. I don't have it on the slides, but it is in your materials of how they're planning to move forward with that collaboration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, next we have an enrollment update. We are happy to report that our enrollment is increasing this time week to week over last year. You had a graph in your materials that showed that the vast majority of colleges are experiencing an increase in enrollment. And then for today, I added the most recent that we had of our week over week headcount trend, and you'll see that we are at 11.6% above where we were this time last year in our number of students who have enrolled in our KCTCS colleges. And now I'm going to turn it over to Alicia Crouch in what we're calling a special report. This is on the enrollment cliff.
So at our last board meeting, the idea of the enrollment cliff was raised, and we were asked to come back and really present on it at this meeting. So you've heard a lot from national presenters about what is happening nationwide with the enrollment cliff. So almost 18 years ago now, we faced a great recession in the United States. And so one of the things that people were not doing during the Great Recession was having babies. So now here we come almost 18 years later, and what is going to happen nationwide and what is going to happen in Kentucky? So what I really want to do is take this time to take that national data and really contextualize it for KCTCS and for community and technical colleges. So as an overview of the presentation, what we'll really go through is what has the history of KCTCS enrollment look like, and then look at that national picture, following that up with what happened in Kentucky and what is happening in Kentucky. And then we're going to look at predictions and what our forecast model is saying for our enrollment across KCTCS as well as at each college. And then we'll conclude with some key findings as well as recommendations moving forward. So as we go through here, you're going to see a lot of small data, which, in the Office of Research and Policy Analysis, we really appreciate. You do have the full report in your packets, as well as these PowerPoint slides. And I should say that as I move through this, while I'm up here presenting today, Dr. Rick Jones, a statistician in the Office of Research and Policy Analysis, is responsible for the bulk of this work. So just want to call out that and thank him. So we're going to start looking at the KCTCS historical enrollment context. So we've broken out the periods of KCTCS enrollment into 7 parts. So we formed really in 2000. So first data points there. We saw a lot of growth over those first few years as we consolidated and brought new colleges on board, completing with the Lexington Community College in the 2004-05. So we saw tremendous growth in those first few years. And then we followed that over the next few years with another burst of tremendous growth due to the recession. So community and technical colleges are really highly correlated with unemployment rates, our enrollment. So as the unemployment rate increases, you do see across the nation the enrollment at community and technical colleges increase. And you saw that at KCTCS. So after the Great Recession, when the economy rebounded, we did see a stark drop in the enrollment for the next few years. So that's that post-recession period in pink there. And that was followed by some years of stability where we had really, really flat enrollment. And then COVID hit. What happened during COVID? People weren't coming to campus. People were trying to get their lives back together. And we saw a real sharp decline in our enrollment during COVID. So over the last few years, we've seen that enrollment kind of pick back up. And so this last year, we actually are, for the first time, above that pre-COVID enrollment. And then that blue piece there is what are we predicting is going to happen over the next few years. And what you'll see there is some really flat enrollment trends out through 2030-31. So this slide has a lot of bars on it. So this is also our enrollment history. And what I really want to point out here, so we've got 3 blue bars. The dark blue bar is our credential seeking enrollment 25 to 64. So that adult enrollment. That's the population that is that has really trended based on the unemployment rates. So you'll see that spike in that blue bar during that recession period. And we've seen a downtrend in that population since until this last year. That's the first time that we've seen that 25 to 64 population kick back up again in terms of our enrollment. So what you'll see kind of there is that light blue bar that's the enrollment, credential seeking enrollment that's our 18 to 19-year-old population. So that's been pretty steady over the life of KCTCS. And that's what we're really looking at when we look at the enrollment cliff. So I do want to point out here, you'll also see that orange bar that has picked up dramatically in the last few years. That's our high school enrollment. So we've really seen a big pickup in dual credit and dual enrollment. So what are the national experts saying about the enrollment cliff? So again, we had a great recession. During hard times, there were fewer births, fewer kids, fewer high school graduates. So fewer high school graduates, potentially fewer community and technical college students. So, but we can't just look at those populations 18 years ago and say that's our population today, because during that time you also see migration. You see migration between counties, you see migrations between states, you see migrations between countries. So what we really want to focus on here is not just what happened 18 years ago, but where those populations are today. So it's all about location. So again, we had that Great Recession. We saw the housing bubble burst. We saw credit markets burst. We saw a lot of negative things happening in society. But what we did see was a lot of enrollment at KCTCS during that time. Why? So some of it is demographics. We had a large population available to come to school. And then the other part is the unemployment, where people were really trying to retool, retrain to be prepared for those jobs that came back after the recession. So you've seen a map similar to this in Dr. Friga's presentation, what's happening across the nation. So here, the darker red are the areas where the population, that 18-year-old population is projected to decline. So those college-going rates are projected to decline. The yellow and then the blue are areas that are projected to grow. So you see Kentucky not in the dark red there, but in a darker orange. So when we look at the national picture, it doesn't tell us everything about what's going to happen to KCTCS. So we see that concern, and we see folks considering systemic changes to combat the issues of the potential declines in enrollment. So what we've seen is most of the research has been national in scope, and it's really been focused on the demographics. So it's really been focused on that demand side. But there are other variables that really impact community and technical college enrollment. So getting into the Kentucky data now. So this graph here shows the population age, the number of births 18 years ago kind of pushed 18 years out. So how many 18-year-olds would we expect today, tomorrow? And what you'll really see here, again, we've broken that out into those 7 pieces that you saw on that earlier graph. So what I really want to point out here is while we are forecasting and projecting that drop in the number of 18-year-olds over the next few years, it's still higher than it was during that Great Recession when we had our highest enrollment numbers. So this graph really shows the first breakouts by college. What happened with the number of births? Again, these are some pretty small pieces on here. You do have this information in your packets, but I want to point out that that second column of data that's all in purple there, that shows that during that Great Recession, every area of Kentucky experienced drops in the number of births. But that changed depending on the area. So some areas were hit harder than other areas. So we do see that after we go through this Great Recession period, most areas of Kentucky did experience an increase in births after that. So we should look forward to that in the future. But we get out to where we're projecting for the future, and we're projecting some losses again across all the state of Kentucky. So when we look at the number, so I'm going to transition now into how do these numbers impact our enrollment. So what we did is really look at each of these dots on this graph here represents a year of enrollment, a historical enrollment at KCTCS. So we look at, the number of births versus our KCTCS enrollment. And what we find is the number of births 18 years ago, not a great projector of our enrollment moving forward. It's actually negative. So it says, as we have more births 18 years ago, our enrollment goes down. So we don't want to use that as a projection. So we looked at a couple other things. So the next thing we looked at was the total population. So here you see a slight upward trajectory. It's a okay predictor, but it's not that great. It's pretty flat. Again, not necessarily what we would want to use to project our enrollment. So then we looked at the population 20 to 24. So a lot of our students are in that age group. But again, we see an actual negative forecast or negative history based on the population 20 to 24 versus our enrollment. So then we looked at the population age 15 to 19. So here we start to see a better predictor of what our enrollment is going to be. So that population age 15 to 19 explains about 20% of the variance in our enrollment. So we're going to use this in our enrollment forecast. And we've shown this to colleges, a couple groups in the colleges now, and they've also asked us to look at the KDE enrollment, so the Kentucky Department of Education, how many 12th graders, 11th graders, 10th graders. That's something else we'll look at moving forward. But we also wanted to bring in that unemployment rate. So I showed you guys that we had a big increase during the Great Recession. So historically our enrollment has been very reactive to the state of the economy. So the state of the economy, the unemployment rate explains 60% of our enrollment over time. So that's another piece that we wanted to add into the forecast, so that we're not just looking at the demographics, but also looking at that unemployment. So 21% explained by the population 15 to 19, and about 60% explained by the unemployment rate. That does vary across our areas. So that's overall KCTCS enrollment here, but you do see a variation in how big a part the unemployment rate plays versus the population age 15 to 19 across our colleges. So our forecast model is based on three things. So it is based on the population age 15 to 19, it's based on the unemployment rate, and it's based on our historical enrollment. So we did look at three separate populations: the credential seeking population, our high school population, as well as other students. So before I go into the next slide, I want to remind you, we did focus on these three pieces. So we have not focused on what is happening and what we are innovating at KCTCS. So we haven't, we have Blue Oval opening in Elizabethtown, for example, right now. So we don't know the full impacts on enrollment for that project yet. So it is not reflected in these projections other than what has already happened to Elizabethtown's enrollment. So our forecast model predicts overall a relatively flat enrollment through 2030-31, with our enrollment increasing by 0.2%. So pretty flat across the board, but that does differ depending on the community. So we predict that 9 colleges will increase over the next several years, and 7 colleges will experience decreases in enrollment. So where is that happening? So this map on the right-hand side here, it shows where all of our community colleges are located now. A green bubble indicates that we project that the enrollment will grow. So you saw Dr. Neal present yesterday a map with the interstates. So it's a very great predictor of enrollment of population right now. So you'll notice that 7 of our colleges are right along that Ohio River. So historically, that's where our enrollment came and where our population came, because the Ohio River was a great way to get products to people, and so what we've seen over time with the development since the 1950s of the interstate system is we've really seen a movement in Kentucky to population growth along that interstate system and away from smaller communities not without access to great roads. So again, as a summary, 21% of our enrollment variation can be explained by that population age 15 to 19. So that comes from that enrollment cliff piece, but 60% really is due to the economy. But we don't have to just accept the economy as is. We can go out and seek partnerships with employers during good times where students could find jobs without that education piece because employers are so desperate for employees. But partnering, you'll hear from Tanel in a little bit about education first, partnering with those employers to ensure that the people that they hire have the skills that they need to succeed and grow is I think, a key for us moving forward. So again, we do have that urban advantage right now, in that we are projecting those enrollment trends to increase in those urban areas and away from the rural areas of the state. And finally, looking at recommendations. So we need to keep a track of these data and really pivot as the economy changes and as these population components change. We also need to promote some of those promising practices. So I mentioned education first, mentioned Blue Oval. So we also know that we have some work to do on increasing the dual credit matriculation rate. So you saw the high number of high school students that we have now, but what we're seeing in the state of Kentucky overall is a decline in the college going rate of high school students. So actually more impactful right now than the enrollment cliff and the number of high school graduates is the decline in the college going rate of those students. So we've seen a 10 percentage point decline from 60% of high school graduates going to college to 51.5%. So how do we get back and make sure that high school graduates understand that importance of post-secondary education? So I'm not going to go through each of these. You have a lot of slides in your packets that have the enrollment forecasts for every college. So I'm just going to focus on the big sandy piece here on the right. So that dotted line, black line at the top, focuses on that population age 15 to 19 over the past and projected out into the future. So you see for Big Sandy, that population age 15 to 19 is falling quite significantly. Below that, in that purple bar, are our enrollment projections. That purple bar indicates kind of that confidence interval. We're 95% sure that enrollment is going to fall somewhere in this area. And then underneath that are the forecasts for each of those subpopulations, so the credential seeking, the high school, and that other population. Any questions?
Any questions? Yes, Joe.
I just want to say that scene separation is great. I think I was kind of asking for this kind of information at the May 30th meeting we're having with Dr. Frieda. This shows a localized forecast model, and it's not all doom and gloom. And I love it. There's a 20-page research brief you gave us, and it's amazing. I don't know if it's the nerd in me, but I recommend everyone go through it and read that. It's pretty cool to see something not so doom and gloom about the next 6 years enrollment. So thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any questions online?
No, all good.
Okay. Dr. Schwartz has a comment.
Thank you for this presentation. And the more local the data, the better. So thanks for just putting us in a mindset about realizing what's not just happening in Kentucky, but nationwide. And as we heard from previous presenters, is that some institutions won't be affected. Some it's going to be a very serious issue, but doing nothing is not an option here. So again, we're going to convert or roll the FAFSA task force into an enrollment cliff task force. The couple early strategies, and it's not a comprehensive list, but think about the relevancy of our programs. The more relevant our programs are, the more natural attraction prospective students will have towards our community technical colleges as well. As you heard here, we're very dependent upon what's going on in the economy. And there's elasticity there, right? And so the more responsive we are to employer needs, the better off we're going to survive the perceived enrollment cliff as well. Then also keep in mind is that we're recruiting populations outside of graduating seniors. And so again, emphasis on adult learners, the space that we're already in with the corrections populations, recovery as well. And then, 1/3 of our enrollees are dual credit. That's a great opportunity, but it's also part of the Senate Joint Resolution to talk about the compensation for that instruction as well. 50% reimbursement right now. So this might be a recommendation that comes out of our final report this fall. So just some early thoughts on that. Thank you for the presentation, and we'll get the Enrollment Cliff Task Force up and running next month.
Thank you. Appreciate it. A lot of information, a lot of good information. It's 10:20. Let's take a 10-minute break, and then we'll get back to it. So we'll come back at 10:30. Just 1 minute, we'll let everybody get seated. Okay, I'm asking Associate Vice President of Workforce and Economic Development, Tanel Sawyer.
Can you all hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Good morning. My name is Tanel Sawyer. I serve as the Associate Vice President for Workforce and Economic Development, and I'm presenting this morning on behalf of Jessie Shook, who is on baby watch. So baby will be here any day now. I am updating you all on topics that you have already heard before, and so just providing some brief updates and happy to take any questions that you all may have. In 2022, the Employment Success Action Team, which is made up of members of PLT, began exploring the need for data on employer partnerships across the system. So as you can see here, the first collection point was in 2023, and there was 2,600 partners that were identified, and that data already has been utilized in legislative affairs. And to give you a concrete example, an LRC request on employers on advisory committees. In the fall of 2023, we were really focused on identify employers who had mutually articulated goals. And so Dr. Quarles mentioned this yesterday. We want to really focus on enhancing our partnerships, and this is an opportunity to actively track companies that are engaged with our colleges in a more transformational approach and a less transactional approach. Together with the presidents, we have determined to update this data on a quarterly basis, and the next data collection phase is underway. Those numbers will be finalized at the end of the fiscal year, so you'll hear an update from Jessie in September on what those numbers look like then. These numbers have been integrated into a Salesforce platform, and I would like to give a special shout out to West Kentucky and specifically Ashley Burns, Big Sandy, Joyce Wilcox, who is leading that effort there, and also Owensboro, Sydney Warren, who is leading that effort for being leaders in this space. They were the first to put their data into the system and also assisted the system office in some continuous feedbacks on issues that they were having so we could mitigate for other colleges to come. Here you'll see an example and a breakdown of the way in which we are aggregating the employer partnerships. We do know that 14 companies were added to Employer Advisory Committee since our last data collection in 2023. And just wanted to let you all know that these data points and the way we're aggregating partnerships did not come from Workforce and Economic Development. We did extensive research and utilized Strata Education Foundation and the way in which we're aggregating these activities. ORPA will begin to start quantifying these employer relationships and also focus on student ROI of these activities. This will allow us to better understand the value proposition for stakeholders and also just want to let you all know that no other system, as we know, is aggregating data in this capacity. The next slide will show also workforce and workforce solutions, and you'll see here the bars in which they are starting to engage their partnerships or at least put them in a system consistently. So just want to point out here, obviously customized training, which I'll talk about in a second whenever we get to trains. The next that I'll show you here is career services partnerships. In the September report, you'll be able to see how many active partnerships that we've added across the system and the depths of those partnerships and how they've changed over time. These reports really provide actionable information for colleges to improve relations, invest more deeply in high impact activities, and also identify gaps. But in order to really proactively use this data, so it's not just put in a system sitting on a shelf, we have also established employer engagement teams, which was supported unanimously by PLT for each college and then also at the system office. Some of the goals here for the employment engagement teams is really just to improve internal communication, understand and deepen relationships across departments, easily identify gaps and strategically targeting businesses, and then also being able to provide a partnership report, no matter who we're meeting with at the employer companies, to really help to show the value proposition of how we're working in multiple ways. We really want to demonstrate the value to the entire company while we may be working with one individual or one specific person in a department. I do know and want to report that even now we have added more welding companies. With our team and also Dr. Wagner's team work together to really not only identify more welding companies for the advisory committees, but through collaborative approaches like that, we're able to talk through maybe employers that we have had conversations with before who said they would like to be more actively engaged, hearing from Dr. Wagner's team that there is a need for that. So having more intentional conversations in that way. So to give you just a concrete example in the way that we're doing at the system office, anybody who has external engagement with any external partners are meeting on a regular cadence to talk through upcoming meetings that we have, and then also meetings that we have had in order to best be more strategic in the way that we are attracting and also developing those partnerships. Any questions about asset mapping or employer engagement teams? Okay. Moving on to Education First Employers. So just a reminder, I know you've probably heard of Education First Employers mentioned many times. It is a recruitment and retention strategy, but I would also argue that it is a development strategy as well. It gives us an opportunity to strategically utilize KCTCS to upskill and reskill Kentuckians in our workforce. We've heard a lot about this today, but just want to give some concrete data. There were 5,888 dropouts unduplicated in the spring of 2023, and 25% of those students mentioned employment and financial reasons were the rationale for stopping out. We also heard earlier in Dr. Wagner's report that 86% of our students found themselves in a stressful financial situation. And what we do know, if students or any of us are forced to choose between work and school, you're going to choose work because you have to work and you don't have to go to necessarily have to go to school. And so we want to make sure that while we think of these as initiatives, this is really just a conscious effort to reposition KCTCS as a destination for college and career successfully and also simultaneously. And we also know that there are 40 million some college no credentials in our state. And so really leveraging earn and learn models will be a way for us to get Kentuckians back into getting an educational attainment, but also workforce development as well. Just some numbers that are on the screen. There are 53 pledges currently signed with companies, and there are 40 in the pipeline. One big thing to note is that we currently have 2 statewide companies that have said, I don't not only want to partner with one college, I'd like to partner with multiple colleges across the state and to be able to provide more opportunities for students. We have heard colleges say that there is a need for more remote options. And so System Office is really focused on how do we utilize employer partnerships and find those opportunities for the colleges, which again, create more opportunities for students. There are 7 colleges that are using Family Scholar House to support this effort. System Office, we have allocated marketing dollars for colleges to use however they see fit. We really have encouraged colleges to utilize this as a grassroots effort to really help our communities to understand that this is an opportunity. So our pseudo recruiter organizations, our community partners as well, and so they can utilize that also for internal marketing as well. We have definitely communicated the importance of compiling that data of students that are hired and also retained so that we can continue to show the return on investment for KCTCS and also for those companies who are partnered with us as well. Here you'll see on the screen Big Sandy with their, we call them NCAA banners to showcase companies being education first employers. Any questions about education first employers? Okay. Yes.
What colleges are using the Family Scholar House? Do you know?
I can give you a comprehensive list in just a second. Thank you. Any other questions?
Question? No. Continue.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. We've heard about trains a couple of times in the past couple of days, but just to give an update, just want to thank you, Dr. Quarles, for allocating $2 million for trains, and we are grateful that you recognize the need in supporting and providing workforce training for Kentucky companies. Just this morning, I got this update, so would like to share with you all. there is $275,183 that are currently being allocated for, unallocated for trains. We will have more than that in projects submitted between now and June 30th. This will be the third year in a row that we've ended the year showing all the money being spent or allocated to current projects, and that includes the $2 million. I didn't want to mess that up, so I needed to read directly off of the update. So just here, as you see on the screen, and Shannon will pass out an update and show what the surveys have looked like. But I do want to share that there is a 27% increase in total projects from fiscal year 23 to 24. You all may remember that there were trained surveys that were being deployed previously. So we have relaunched the satisfaction survey, and that was launched on April 1st, and that was an audit recommendation. The surveys are being deployed as the projects are being closed out. So we have currently sent out 9, from April, there were 9 surveys that were sent out. We received 4 back. And so the response rates still there are, they could improve, but there is definitely, you'll see in the handout that you receive that companies are satisfied with the training that they are receiving from the colleges. So this was unanimous across the board. Any other questions about trains? Again, I know we've mentioned this a few times, but I wanted to provide an update from Workforce and Economic Development.
No, I would like to point out that I know we were asking about our budget underages and the carry forward money, and that's where Dr. Quarles got the $2 million to apply towards the trains funding, was from that carry forward money as well. So one-time money, it's good to use for this kind of efforts. So I wanted to just point that out, that we're just not putting that away and storing it. We're using it. So.
And it also highlights that we exhaust these funds. It's a direct connection with our workforce development mission. And the more that we can prove that there's more utilization out there than the capacity we have, that's a better argument we have when we go back to the General Assembly and say this is what's working. And but that's a great point. I really hope to play a very aggressive role on the workforce side. I think that's clearly where the Board of Regents want me. It's clearly where the General Assembly, the Cabinet for Economic Development, the Governor's Office, et cetera. And so one thing that Tanel, but also Jesse's working on right now is that we're trying to strengthen the workforce development strategy for the state. Is that we get a lot of different people who make different phone calls for companies that want to come to our state, expand in our state, or more importantly, who want to stay in our state. And so there's actually an effort underway right now to make sure that if we get the phone call from a company, that we make sure we inform the other agencies that are involved in that recruitment process. And so sometimes it comes through trains.
Absolutely. Thank you for that update, and thank you for those comments.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you. I would also like to provide an update on Going Pro. Hopefully you have all seen a lot of the media in the news, on LinkedIn, just sharing the amazing events that are happening across the state at our colleges, where students are committing to working at a company. Our large kickoff event happened at the Capitol. The Kentucky Education and Labor Cabinet was present, the Kentucky Chamber, the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development, and also CAM. Senator Bledsoe was also an event speaker at this event. Reigniting Going Pro really created an opportunity to expand from just manufacturing to also include other key sectors. There were 50 companies who were involved. There were 18 Going Pro events, 32 media mentions, which reached 1.6 million viewers. And this really positions us to have a career-first marketing strategy, which enhances the public perception of the value of higher ed and really positions KCTCS to be a spearheaded leader in that. And so we are just really excited to know and being able to strategically promote that our credentials lead to a high-paying and in-demand career. Any questions about Going Pro? I have a video I would like to show you all next.
At the Kentucky Community and Technical College want to encourage more students to commit to a career, and they found a fun new way to do so.
New at noon, WKYT's Lucy Bryson shows us the celebration of achievement for one of those students.
As Kentucky fans, most of us love to keep up with our favorite athletes and see where they're headed after college. But Kentucky Community and Technical College says that you don't have to be an athlete to go pro.
It may be April Fool's Day, but KCTCS's commitment to our workforce is no joke.
Matthew Purvis is going pro today. He's not an athlete. He's working in electrical support.
Just kind of jump in what I've already been doing for 2 years. Electrical support is going to be pretty much the same, but full-time now, so I'm excited to start that.
He's worked with Bastion Solutions during his time at KCTCS. He's making the switch from part-time to full-time.
It feels good because, you know, you finally getting some real money. You're finally getting doing your job for real and not worrying about school on the side.
The Commonwealth has plenty of job openings now, and KCTCS is looking to have their students fill them. This is a fun way to get the energy up.
But if you want to start a new high-paying job, it's really signing your name on the dotted line with the employer that makes the difference. And that's what makes KCTCS so unique, is that we are so focused on workforce development.
But it's not finished here. They hope that Purvis is just one of many to leave their school with a bright future ahead.
So that what you saw this morning is going to be replicated, hopefully, many times over as our Kentucky students start a new career.
One quote shared today was, "Dreams don't work unless you do." That's what KCTCS says all the students signing are doing by taking that first step for their future. For now, in Frankfort, I'm Lucy Bryson, WKYT.
I hope that this is not the first time that you've seen the video, but hope that I watched you all smiling from ear to ear, being in the room. It was incredible. Really to see the excitement and the excitement that we created around graduating, getting a job, and being very proud of that. So thank you to all who were involved in that. And thank you for especially to the presidents, the events that you all had individually across the state.
I have to say that was a great, great promotion, a great highlight of what we're doing. And I'm looking forward to a lot more of those coming from the 16 colleges, because I think that's the way to go.
Absolutely.
Thank you. He's not going to quit his day job.
No. We purposely gave him that. No one else was willing to say it. Thank you all. The last update that I would like to give you all, and Dr. Quarles mentioned this yesterday, Jesse and our team secured a $1 million planning grant. This grant's goal is really to streamline and advance these technologies to improve manufacturing practices that reduce part lead times, material costs, energy usage, and waste, while positioning Kentucky as an economic hub for additive manufacturing. The goal is really to expand the pipeline of companies utilizing additive technology, and KCTCS's primary role will really focus on workforce development activities, bridging the gap between the education infrastructure and also the demands of workforce. And it really increases the enrollment in these programs. And we are very excited about this opportunity. And KCTCS, and I think this is the most important piece here as well, is KCTCS is the core workforce partner on this grant. That is the update from me. Again, on behalf of Jesse, is there any questions that I can answer for you all?
Do we have any questions for Tana? Thank you very much. Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Chair.
Very good information. Good work. Next on the agenda is philanthropy. I'll ask Associate Vice President of the KCTCS Foundation, Dr. Megan Stith, to present this agenda item.
All right, thank you all for the chance to be with you today. I'm Megan Stith. I have been with KCTCS at Elizabethtown for almost 6 years and in a new role with the system for about 4 weeks. It has been amazing, though, to take what I've gotten to see at the system level and help us look at our strategy for moving forward to be a convener that helps solve problems, not just at our college level, but across Kentucky. And just in the last few weeks, I've been reminded by the power that philanthropy has to help KCTCS achieve our strategic objectives. So I'm excited to share with you a little bit today of where we're headed as a team, where we're headed to support our colleges, colleges, and ultimately some results I think you'll love seeing from our recent Giving Day that was the first for KCTCS and gave us some great data to inform our next steps. So our vision at Philanthropy is so rooted in the work of our colleges, and our hope is to become the philanthropic partner of choice across Kentucky. Now, that sounds like a big goal, and it is. I have seen us transform at ECTC over the last few years from a place that was maybe more transactional in our fundraising work, but now is leveraging our partners, leveraging our relationships in a new way, and developing more of a culture of giving. And this is something that we're looking forward to engaging with you as Regents. I appreciate that this is a priority that you want to undertake as well, and that we have volunteers, board members across the state that we're excited to leverage in this work. We have so much in terms of assets to work from as we look at, and I love the fact that we're connected with workforce to talk about shared relationships with employers. And that is one of the pieces that we're going to be looking at as we chart our course forward over the next several months of seeing where we have these assets, especially looking and turning outward to other institutions and benchmarking our work against not only those in higher education, but also the healthcare space, other community colleges across the country, and looking at how we can be more effective in our work in philanthropy. So it really is a chance to gather a lot of input, ask a lot of questions, and as we also do this work alongside the Senate Joint Resolution response, alongside the forensic audit, it's a chance for us to look at the work we're doing, ask questions about if it's the most strategic and effective that it can be, and ultimately how we leverage these assets more effectively. Ultimately, we are at our best when we are supporting the work of our colleges and our students. And when I look at Leah and Alexandra today and their stories, how do we help shine a light on more students just like them? Because while they are exceptional, they're also representative of the 100,000 plus students that we have. And that means each student has a story. And how do we help our colleges expedite the impact they can make on those students by refining our processes on the philanthropy side to make sure that we are easy to work with for our donors, and ultimately we can be the vehicle that donors give through to make a difference in students' lives and meet unmet needs at the college level. So we're working on streamlining some of our administrative functions to achieve that goal, and again, just really looking at how we redesign our efforts based on the lessons learned from our recent Giving Day. We also have the asset of the foundation to work with, and looking at the role of that organization and the dedicated volunteers and donors who support it to advance our priorities at a system level. You know, sometimes people hear about your work as a fundraiser and they think you plan parties and have bake sales, but really I see our role to be a funding strategist and how we talk across the system about our wish lists and our goals and what aligns with the work that we need to do and where are the gaps and how do we fill those with a variety of funding strategies. Maybe it is a mix of operation dollars, grants, and philanthropy. And that's the work that I'm really excited to undertake, is helping our colleges and also our leadership at the system refine what that wish list looks like, so that we can then again leverage those assets to support our goals. So I couldn't be more grateful that philanthropy is a priority for our leadership, for each of you, and that you've expressed an interest to be part of this work. So as I shared the Giving Day results, these numbers actually have increased even since we put this graphic together, which is a testament to the generosity of our donors and the amazing work that's happening at our colleges. As you'll see, we have raised over $1.5 million through the system's first Giving Day. And I will tell you, if someone had come to us a few months ago and said, our goal for the Giving Day is $1.5 million, I don't think any of us would have felt like that was a reasonable expectation for our first year. But here we are. This is a testament to the hard work of our philanthropy offices at the college. It's also a testament to what happens when we collaborate between the system and the colleges to leverage our individual strengths and do things that the other side maybe couldn't do as effectively. For example, there is a tremendous amount of data that went into this effort, and that is a very specific skill set that we have at the system office that was able to benefit our colleges in developing those communication and outreach plans that generated this support. It's also worth noting, I always want our colleges to get to celebrate their results first, but there was a $1 million gift secured through this effort as well. So that shows that there is underlying support for KCTCS, and the more proactive we can be and the more we can tell our story to engage our constituents, there is support there waiting to be provided. I also want to give a shout out to Southeast. Their total actually has increased to over $8,000 since this report was run, and we just got another $500 check in the mail the other day. So there is still funding continuing to come in, and we just appreciate all the donors who helped us reach this milestone. This is a quick heat map, so you can see that really we are making an impact across Kentucky that is showing up through philanthropy. I know in Elizabethtown we had donors from 6 other states as well. So the fact that KCTCS continues to make a difference nationally as well as in Kentucky, and seeing that philanthropic support come in from those who are still connected to us and ready to give and respond when asked is truly amazing. This slide gives you some data on where our gifts came from through Giving Day. And I think there's especially 2 pieces here that are important to highlight. We saw support from our faculty and staff who give every day in so many ways, but knowing that they were also supportive of us through this fundraising effort was so meaningful to see their commitment extend financially, as well as the expertise and time they give to our students. Also, the alumni engagement around this was truly incredible. There is some mixed thought as to whether alumni typically give in a community college setting, and I think we've shown that there is interest here that we need to further investigate and figure out how we connect more with our alumni, because as you've heard today, the impact that we make in their lives is truly there, and they're willing to advocate on our behalf and share their stories. So how do we leverage, and I would love to talk to our student regents to get your ideas, because there is so much potential here to help, again, tell the KCTCS story and invite people to be part of it with us. Some of the tools that we're creating as well allow people of any gift amount to participate in philanthropy. So whether it's giving $15 to a pooled scholarship fund or to a food pantry, making philanthropy in higher ed, specifically at KCTCS, more accessible to anyone is a great opportunity we have with some of the new online giving tools available at KCTCS. And we are excited to reach out in a broader way, because sometimes people think of giving to higher ed as I can't afford to put my name on a building or naming opportunities. But truly, this data shows with average gifts of $500, when you remove that $1 million gift, that there is ways for anyone to make a difference here. And when we collectively add all of those gifts together, we can make a huge impact. One of the data points, we are excited about a lot of this data, obviously, but the number of first-time donors engaged through this effort was truly tremendous as well, with over 400 new donors coming on board. So our focus as well is not just finding new donors and using the over 400,000 entries we have in our database to further refine who we work with, but also make sure that we steward the donors that we have. So stewardship is going to take a large priority for us moving forward. And we look forward to helping colleges identify first-time donors who may be in their data, and how we help them find those new prospects, because we do have so many people that KCTCS has touched. And that is the exciting challenge we have ahead for philanthropy, is how we identify those folks that could be potential supporters for us or become engaged in other ways. So in summary, we are so excited about the future of philanthropy at KCTCS. I really view our role as problem solvers and conveners, and how we help develop a strategy that benefits all of us at the college level and across the system. And I'm just grateful for this opportunity to share with you. So at this point, would love to hear any questions you may have, or anything that we can address in our plans moving forward.
Quick question, and you might have already addressed it. How much, from a percentage standpoint, are the giving from outside of the statement donors?
That's a great question. I do not have that data yet at this point. There's some more in-depth analysis we've been planning to undertake, as we still have a little gift entry left to do, but I'd be happy to run a report that breaks that down once we have all of our information in.
Okay, I'd be curious also to know what is the value proposition, the assumed value proposition of donating funds to colleges outside of their state. The reason why I'm saying this is I hear a lot of out-of-state money is funneling into colleges, community colleges, and I'm not real sure why. Why not focus on your own state? So it's some value proposition. I'm just curious what it is.
I can share at least in an anecdote from ECTC. We had an alum who I had never connected with before, and he was solicited through the Giving Day appeal, and he reached out, was living in, I think, North Carolina, and just said he was grateful to hear what was going on still at ECTC and grateful for the impact that the college had played and the role it played in his life, and he was happy to give. So I think it speaks to that depth of attachment, even though we might not have the football games and some of the other things that you associate with alumni retention, the depth of impact is there, and it's sticking with our alums in a way that maybe we had underestimated and is worth exploring further. So definitely would love to share more about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, if you may, Mr. Chairman. Stephanie Bell, who's chairing our foundation board, she's actively seeking names of potential board members. So if you know of anyone that may be connected that you think would serve in this capacity, let us know. I'll forward that to Stephanie. I want to say thank you to Megan for the great job that you're doing as well. And let's be thinking about foundation being more than just raising money, but about alumni relations going forward as well.
Yes, Leah.
And I know you mentioned possibly wanting to speak to Alexandra and I, so I'm more than willing to always connect, engage, and then anyone else in this room as well. I will give out my personal cell phone number, my personal email, just because I would like to help in any way that I can to continue to improve the system.
Thank you. We need to keep asking for help. And I also live on a farm in Meade County. So if you're into that rural lifestyle, we'd love to have you in Meade County.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, next agenda item is our board elections, and I'll ask Parliamentarian Young to run the board elections.
Okay. So we're going to do this first chair, and then we're going to vote, and then we'll do vice chair and vote and move on to the secretary. So I will remind those of you online, you do need to be visible on camera and be audible throughout this process. Okay, so now I'm going to open the floor for nominations for board chair. Regent Finan? We cannot hear you.
Thanks for this opportunity to nominate. I think we're in a very critical period with Dr. Quarles being 5 months in. And as we look at the transition we've gone over this past several years in particular, I have found that this past year under Chair Martin, Vice Chair Keith Hamilton, and Secretary Brianna Witten have really provided the needed stability. My hope is that we maintain the full slate of officers going into this next year, but recognizing the process in front, I would like to nominate Barry Martin as to continue as chair.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for board chair? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to close the floor for nominations. Chair Martin, would you like to give a floor speech or anything before we move on?
No, I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity for this last year. It's been really great. There's a lot of work to it, but you know, we are now seeing the fruits of our labor, and with what I have seen the past few months, and actually yesterday and today, I feel like we are now pretty much a team, and we need a couple more components to that team, but it does feel like we are working together from PLT, the cabinet, the president, and the board, that we are finally working together, and we've got major things ahead of us, but those are opportunities. I don't look at them as being hurdles. They're opportunities. And I would be honored to be chair for another year. So thank you. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, with only one nomination, Chair Martin, you are now chair for another year.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Moving on to vice chair. I would like to open the floor for nominations for vice chair. Regent Finan.
In keeping in the spirit of what I had just proposed, I would like to nominate current Vice Chair Keith Hamilton to remain in that role.
Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, I will close the floor for nominations. Would you like to give a floor speech? Turn your.
Thank you. Instead of reiterating, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited about continuing to serve in this position. Highly value everyone who's involved in this process. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right, with only one nominee, you are now vice chair for another term. Moving on to board secretary, I would like to open the floor for nominations. Regent Finan.
Oh, sorry, my hand keeps going up and down. If she will accept, would love to see Brianna Witten continue on as secretary.
Are there any other nominations? Regent Witten, would you like to say a few words? And do you accept?
Yes, I accept. Karen, thank you. I appreciate your faith in my leadership and the leadership of the current executive committee. It's been an honor. It's been a challenge this last year, and I look forward to continuing the progress that this board continues to make. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
With only one nominee, Regent Witten, you are now secretary for another term. You all made this very easy for me. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it and look forward to working with Keith and Brianna and everybody else. So I hope I didn't hurry things, but we are getting done before lunch today. So James Lee.
I make a motion we adjourn.
No, I got a couple things real quick before you do that. The next meeting of the KCTCS Board of Regents will be in September the 19th and 20th at Henderson Community College. So looking forward to seeing you all there and looking forward to visiting Henderson. Never been there yet, so looking forward to the first time visit. Yes, Dr. Neal?
You have been very efficient, and so you are ahead of schedule, which is fantastic. The caterer is setting up lunch in the same place we had lunch yesterday, so I would invite you all to, after the meeting is over, to enjoy lunch. It's a potato and salad bar. So that's there for you and all of our guests.
Okay, great. And Dr. Neal, we really appreciate your hospitality and your staff's, all their hard work. It's really paid off and we've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Any other comments, discussions? Yes, Dr. Quarles.
Just a couple things as we close out. Thank you, members of PLT. Thank you for your respective leadership teams for my onboarding, and thank you to our KCTCS system office staff as well for everything that you've done for me these first 5 months, getting me onboarded and settled. Appreciate that. I'm going to encourage us to just take a moment to own our mission. Make sure that we, as we go through this period of change, to make sure that whatever changes we implement align perfectly with where we need to be at for the state of Kentucky. So just take some time to think about that, and I'll assign a little bit of homework if you don't mind. Be thinking about the SJR work groups, the ones that we'll be touching base with you on. Please give us your thoughts. Please give us your research questions as well. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. Secondly, be thinking about partnerships that we may have overlooked or ones that we need to reevaluate, and make sure that we're having the quality of the relationship and the partnership that we need as well. And the last one is, if you know of opportunities for funding that can help the system out, please let us know. Please let us know. And I just want to say a special thank you to our student regents, but also just one last time for Regent Finance Service over the years with KCTCS. Congratulations and thank you for your service.
Great. Thank you all. I've enjoyed it.
And yeah, for the Board of Regents, just be available and make sure that we help out with the committees or with the work groups, because we are on a very aggressive and progressive timeline. So if we need to make sure that we stay abreast of what's going on, and we got to come back with some major recommendations in December. So it's very important for us to be thinking about it and working with the committees. So, okay, thank you all. That concludes our agenda. Do we have a motion and a second to adjourn? There's a motion. Do we have a second? Alexandra? Okay.
We can do this by consensus. Any objections? We are adjourned.
Okay, thank you all. Appreciate it. Safe travels.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good trip home.
Thank you.